Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 is the first part, as the title states, of The Long Halloween's animated adaptation into film form. A graphic novel that I really love, and I've been wanting to see on screen for a while now. And in this story, Batman is trying to find out about a killer who is only killing people on specific holidays towards the end of the year. And as the mystery grows, he's working with Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent to figure out who it is, and the bodies keep on piling up. I remember I was in an apartment a while back, and we were about to move out because the lease was expiring and we'd found better places to live in. My roommate at the time, she was getting rid of a few things, and she hands me The Long Halloween graphic novel, and she says that, well, I don't want to throw it away because I love it so much, but I also want it to be in the hands of someone who I think will take good care of it. And that's the reputation I've created for myself, apparently, in life, so I think the posters might have something to do with it. And so I read the graphic novel in one sitting. It's one of my favorite graphic novels of all time. It's one that I really love, and I couldn't wait to see this adapted. Tim Sale's artwork, Jeff Loeb's words. I wanted to see that done justice if they ever got a chance to make a movie. And so with part 1 coming out, I was keeping my fingers crossed, because when it comes to DC animated movies, sometimes they're really great. I would say that in terms of the best ones, Flashpoint Paradox was great, but in terms of the graphic novel adaptations, the famous ones, my favorite one would probably be The Dark Knight Returns. That was also divided into 2 parts, and I think they did a really great job with that. And so this was exciting because I thought, okay, maybe they have something here, and hopefully it won't be like The Killing Joke, which was not great. Let's just put it that way. And I have to say, I'm very happy about Long Halloween. I thought they did a really good job with this movie. I think the first part of it, which is really just set up and, you know, things that are to come, this is one of those scenarios where the setup makes sense. Because if you read The Long Halloween, it's pretty dense. A lot of stuff happens in it, and you need a lot of time to establish that lore really well. And you have to also keep in mind that everybody who's watching this movie has not read the graphic novel. So if we get that out of the way for a second, we have to understand that you want to establish it for first-time viewers as well, people who are being introduced to the story. And I think the film does a really good job, because it not only integrates the graphic novel fans into it very well and gives them a faithful adaptation of everything up until this point, it also manages to be a nice jumping off point for anyone who's never read the graphic novel, and so you can also enjoy it if you have no knowledge of the material whatsoever. Are there liberties taken? Well, not as many as I thought there would be, mostly in terms of scene arrangement and in terms of extending dialogue. For instance, there's a couple of moments early on I couldn't help but notice, like there was a scene with Jim Gordon and Harvey Dent and Batman, and that scene on a rooftop, it's much longer in the version that we see in this movie compared to the version in the graphic novel. There's a scene between Batman and Catwoman where they have a bit of a fight. That's a lot more in this movie compared to what it is in the graphic novel. In the graphic novel, it's like maybe a page or 2 tops. Here it goes on for about, I guess, 3 or 4 minutes or something like that. That was good. That was really great to see. Some scenes I thought were omitted at first were rearranged, so they happened a little later on in the story, which actually worked. I think in terms of sort of bringing everything together, I think that there was a better handling of that. I think certain things could have been expanded on a little bit more, that were expanded on in the graphic novel, but I also understand maybe for pacing, they probably cut that down and they decided to not have that be in here, at all, which is also fine with me. Because at the end of the day, the overarching story, the main plot of it, is really what I'm concerned about in terms of how you're handling that and if that is being done justice. And it was, in my humble opinion. And that is why I really liked what they managed to pull off with part 1. I'm very excited about where they go with part 2, because that's also one rated R. This one was rated PG-13. And this does get very dark and very tragic, and I want to see where else they go with it. Speaking of dark and tragic, they do that. I mean, with the character arcs that are established, this is, if you've read the graphic novel, no spoilers, this is, a lot of the story is about Harvey Dent, and Harvey's storyline is tragic in the sense that you see a very downward spiral of his character. And they explore that a little bit more in this compared to what you have in the graphic novel, which I think was a huge improvement. For example, they talk about certain things happening in the graphic novel, which you don't see Here, you see it. And I thought that was a marked improvement. It really added to the emotional connect that you were having with these characters in these moments, and helped enhance the story quite a bit. But something that I did take issue with at times was, despite how beautiful the animation is, it's really, really great. Their style has improved considerably, these DC Universe animated movies. One thing I couldn't help but notice was sometimes character animation seemed inconsistent. And I don't just mean in terms of movements or in terms of, things being said, but in terms of designs. Sometimes I couldn't help but notice some characters looked a little more detailed than other characters. I don't know if that's just me, but there were a few frames where there'll be one character standing and another one next to them, and the details varied between the two. That could be because maybe they ran out of time in terms of animating that properly, or maybe certain things sort of, slip through the cracks perhaps, but sometimes that inconsistency was a little strange, and it did, bother me in a couple of moments. It wasn't the entire movie, it was just a few moments here and there. Also, I think despite being only 85 minutes long, certain scenes that are extended do drag a bit much, and it sort of affected the pacing, especially in the middle portion of the movie, because that's where things are really extended a lot more, and I thought that it could have been a better paced second act, especially since it's being used to establish a lot of stuff that we're about to see going forward, but at the same time I think it could have been done in a better, more compelling way at times, rather than what we actually got to see in the movie. But overall, I still really, really like part one. I think this is a great start. I am, fingers crossed, I'm hoping they keep this momentum for part two, and maybe it's a little more consistent going into that. I'm very excited to see where they go with it. I'm gonna give Batman The Long Halloween Part 1 an 8 out of 10. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.